Oh, hello creatures of the night. I am back again for a second day, the 16th of October. And unfortunately, I've started this too late this year, so you'll only be getting half of the reviews you should be getting, but whatever. I've been busy. I explained that in the previous video. You should be able to check that out right here. Click between my fingers. It actually works. It's unbelievable. Just make sure you have the annotations on. So yeah, just do that. Okay? You should have clicked it by now. Whatever. I don't even care at this point. Anyhow, we're talking about the movie Tetsuo the Iron Man. It's not really a horror film. It's kind of a horror film. It's a cyberpunk movie, and yeah, I guess it does have elements of horror. I don't even know why I said that to begin with. It is pretty much a horror movie. It's a Japanese cyberpunk movie, and a lot of directors have talked about this. It's still pretty obscure, but it was made in the wave of a cyberpunk movement in the 1980s, late 1980s, early 90s. This also consisted of the film Blade Runner, of course, which I haven't seen, which is ridiculous. Why haven't I seen Blade Runner? And there were a couple of other Japanese movies, one which was Rubber's Lover, and Pinocchio 964, which is another movie that I really want to see. And I think there were a couple of other Tetsuo movies. One just came out this year, and another one called Body Hammer, which was the sequel to this, came out around the same time. But whatever, this is a review of Tetsuo the Iron Man. This is a really hard movie to review, because I really don't know what's happening. It's told mostly without dialogue, and as Japanese films go, they're really stylish, and that's what I like about them. But what's really difficult about this one is that it's really hard to tell exactly what's going on. Yeah. So I'm just gonna give you a review based on like what I think it's about. From what I can tell, it's this guy who all I know is that it starts off with this scene of this guy who has he's in this big steamy room full of metal bits and wires hanging all around all over the place, and these tubes, and I think he's partially made of metal too, because he pulls back something on his leg, and then there's all of these maggots and things, and this piece of metal sticking out of his leg, so he's sort of turning into, metal is taking over his body. And then I'm not sure if it's him who's running, but I'm not sure if it's him who's running or our main character Tetsuo. I think it's him, because he starts running down the street, then he gets hit by a car, and then somehow that's made reference to later on, and then we meet our main character Tetsuo, who starts to have metal growing on him. I wasn't sure if Tetsuo was supposed to be this other guy at first, or maybe this other guy has sent him to do something. I really don't know how to explain this. It's ridiculous. This movie, what I like most about this movie is that its energy and sort of the camera angles, which is what's so great about these Japanese movies. Some of the new different film techniques that you don't usually see. It was made on a shoestring too, which also makes it fairly impressive. But I can't really tell what's going on in this movie. All I know is that this guy Tetsuo is starting to turn into he's not really turning into a machine, because it's a fusion of metal and his body, but he's not a cyborg either. There's just sort of metal overtaking his body. He's just got sort of metal on the outside, and he's transforming into metal. So he's not a robot, he's still a human, but he's just a human covered and filled with metal. It's really weird. I know the director, whose name I probably will not be able to pronounce. Shinya Sakamoto, or however you would pronounce that. That's strange. Usually the director is put last on the back, but here he's not even in the front, he's in the middle. Music is actually the last thing credited. I guess that's how the Japanese credits go. I didn't know that, so shoot me. But yeah, what's really cool about it is the imagery. This was actually, before I even saw the film, I'd just seen the trailer. Before I saw the film in its entirety, that's when I made my short film Humanoid, which isn't that good by my standards now, even though it was just a year ago. But that's sort of what inspired my film Humanoid. Just seeing the trailer, Humanoid was sort of my interpretation of Tetsuo the Iron Man, just based on the trailer. So if you want to see that, I'll actually put a little annotation right here, if I'm not too lazy to fill it in later. But yeah. So I like this movie because of the imagery, but the plot doesn't make that much sense to me. Maybe that's just because I'm not used to watching Japanese films. All I know is this guy's starting to turn into metal, and then he loses. I think he loses control of his body, and he starts attacking his his wife or fiance or something, who's turning into this weird monster as well. And I think maybe the metal's starting to mess with his vision or something like that. It doesn't make that much sense to me. Please someone explain to me what's going on in this movie, but that doesn't matter. I still recommend it just because it's so badass, even if you don't understand what's going on. That's all I can say. That's really all I can say. But this is a nice release, first of all. I like the packaging. It's all shiny. Sometimes I don't really like the fact that it comes in this book. It's kind of neat, but you know, it's a distraction from the DVD itself. I don't think it's really necessary and isn't really good for the environment either. If you were to trash this or do something. It's excessive use of materials. But now I'm rambling about something else completely different. There's a few interesting little features here. I'm taking a look at this. It just says, first look at Tsukamoto's new film, Vital. So I guess he's also done the film Vital, but I'm not too familiar with that. Anyhow, yeah, there's a few trailers from some other Tartan Asian Extreme releases, which is actually a great company. Oh, I thought you could... There you go. You can't, it doesn't matter, you won't be able to see that in YouTube quality. Yeah, so there's some other trailers for some of their other stuff, and there's some trailers for other bits of Tsukamoto's work. I do like the distributor because they bring to North America a lot of movies that are obscure to us. So they're a great distributor, and I do recommend this release. Maybe you'll be able to tell me what's going on. The film is very stylish. It's got some really messed up bits to it too. So just be prepared for weirdness. It's not as bad as The Human Centipede, so don't worry about that. But anyhow, yeah. That's really all I can say. It's a really neat movie. It isn't really coherent by North American standards, which unfortunately I've been tainted by, but it is a neat film, and I do recommend it as a result. Even if cyberpunk's not your thing or Japanese movies aren't your thing, then just give it a rent. But if you're into this sort of thing, like I am, I'd suggest you check it out. So, yeah. Please tell me what's happening in this movie if you've seen it. I have absolutely no idea.